You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to N2K Cyberwire's Hacking Humans podcast, where each week we look behind the social engineering scams, phishing schemes, and criminal exploits that are making headlines and taking a heavy toll on organizations around the world. I'm Maria Varmazis, dusting off my Dave Bittner impression as he is out today, and with me is the one and only Joe Carrigan.
Hello, Maria.
Hello again, Joe. Okay, so first and foremost, I have Dave's permission to share this with everybody on why I'm filling in for him today. Many of our listeners are familiar with Dave's father, Bill Bittner. He has been sort of a character on our show, and Dave has spoken about him many times. Sadly, Mr. Bittner passed away. So Dave is understandably, he's grieving and he's dealing with all the things that happen when your parent passes away. So our sincere condolences to Dave, and I'm sure all of our listeners, our hearts are with him. So that's why I'm filling in for Dave today. Sorry, I'm getting a little choked up. I'm actually going to be out next week, not for a sad reason. I'm going to be at a conference. But I'm filling in for Dave because of his sad reason. So anyway, okay. Let's move on to our listener follow-up because we have a ton of listener feedback. You all have been emailing us a lot. Thank you for that, everybody. I'll start with this first item from our listener, Justin, who said, you brought up an interesting point about how would the buyer of gold know that they are getting actual gold? And he wrote, an easy sting operation seems like it would be to give the courier gold-painted lead bars, and one of them has a tracker, or just throw an AirTag in and see where it goes. Thanks for the podcast, Justin. I don't personally want to do...
That's an excellent idea.
I don't want somebody very angry showing up at my door. But if somebody wants to try that and wants to take on that risk, I'd be very curious to know where it goes.
Here's the thing. I'm pretty sure lead is actually heavier than gold. So you can make a lead thing that has some other mass in the middle that is not lead that weighs, so that the block weighs as much as a gold block of that volume would do. I'm convinced you can do that. So then it's just a matter of coating it in like maybe gold leaf or something so it looks like gold. But I think it would be pretty easy to embed a transmitter like that, like an AirTag into it. But
lead, though, would
100%.
that cause issues? If it's a blocking agent, right?
Yeah, it's very You'd have to make sure the antenna has a way to go out of the bar, or
the LL Bean tote bag has the antenna in it, something like that.
Right. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, why don't if you want to try it, I would love to know what happens, but please be safe.
I'm not going to try because I don't want to smelt that much lead.
Oh, that is the sole reason, right, Joe?
Yeah, and I don't have that much lead. Aluminum I got, but yeah.
Well, hang on to that. We may need it.
Yes.
Who knows? We also got some feedback from listener X-Ray Specs, who said, hey, love the show. In response to the theory about scanning plates and running a Python script against data sets or similar, not buying it. My wife and I get a couple of these emails a month, and we don't own a car.
Okay.
So there you go. And then, Joe, why don't you do this last bit of feedback from our listener, Jim Gilchrist?
Jim says, regarding Joe Carrigan's letter from the folks at EasyPass discussed in the March 20th episode, in the dark ages before the dawn of transponderless EasyPass, I received a similar letter to Joe's. Now, this is interesting because I don't know why. Maybe my transponder has gone bad. I still haven't taken the time to go and investigate why it's not working.
I'm having the same problem, though, honestly. Yeah, that's interesting. Huh.
Because there was no tag recognition system for the tolls in place then, my letter threatened huge fines unless I paid immediately. Also, they threatened to flag renewal of his tags until he settled up. I'm going to read this. So I called because I was certain that my transponder had been in place in the inside of my windshield for the trips in question. The person on the other end of the call cross-referenced my tags to my transponder, deducted all tolls due from the balance on my account, credited me with the penalty fees, and directed me to my local MVA branch. which is the Motor Vehicle Administration, or the RMV. I don't know what that stands for, or DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles. The place
Yeah,
where
it
you
depends on
register
your
your car.
place where you register your car. It's different names
Right.
depending on where you're at. Yeah. Yep.
But he was directed to go there to have his transponder tested. Unsurprisingly, it failed, and a few minutes later, I walked out with a new device. The EasyPass office is not part of the normal MVA system. So I was second in line to walk in, and the person who helped me was very helpful and friendly. No, so is he saying
Wow,
that
okay.
when you go to the EasyPass office, it's not the MVA, so they're helpful and friendly? Is that
A contrast.
Right.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
because around here, if I have tag or title work, I go to the privately run tag and title company and pay the fee associated with that, because just so I don't have to get abused by the people at the MVA, because they're
Man.
experts at it around here. Actually, to the county I've moved to, I haven't tried this MVA yet, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I received several messages from numbers in the Philippines alleging unpaid tolls for trips in other M states like Maine and Massachusetts. Is Jim a Maryland resident? Because he says
guessing he is.
MVA.
Yeah, I'm
which is-
guessing he is, because up here in Mass, it's the RMV. At least it used to be the RMV. So
Right.
MVA is not something I was familiar with. So
No, MVA
Yeah.
is a Maryland acronym. I don't know how, and he's definitely in using an EasyPass, and that's the Maryland system. But I know the
Yeah.
EasyPass, Massachusetts has
it's the
EasyPass,
Northeast.
right?
Yeah,
it's the Northeast.
It's pretty much the Northeast. Yep.
Right. So anyways, he says he's received several messages from numbers in the Philippines alleging unpaid tolls for other M states like Maine and Massachusetts. I'm pretty sure there's no correlation between the messages and toll trips I've taken. The cost to run such a scam is low, that it is so low that it should be profitable, with only a small response so ripe for a shotgun approach. Agreed.
Yeah.
My response was to Google the country code and then use the report spam and delete button at the end of the message. Thanks for the entertaining, informative content. There is a good set of evidence here that this is random, because
Yeah.
I have now received another one as well.
Oh, there you go.
And it was on a phone that's not associated with anything that I do personally. It's on my company phone. So they gave me an iPhone. I've talked about how much I don't like my iPhone, but I got a text on that said hey, you got some unpaid tolls. I'm like, nobody on this
No, I
number has
don't.
unpaid tolls, right? No, I don't.
Yeah.
You leave,
Yeah, no, I
leave it as
don't.
is.
I find it really fascinating that a lot of people have been writing into us, because this is not even all the feedback that we've gotten. This is just some
Right.
of it. Because I think a lot of people are getting these, and I think a lot of us are having these conversations. I know I have been asking my friends, because I'm one of the few people that actually lives where my cell phone area code actually is physically. So for me, it's like, okay, it's gonna match. But most of my friends have moved all over the place. So up here in Mass, I've got friends who, are from the West Coast, DC, whatever. And yeah, I was just wondering, when they're getting the spam, is it matching where they live or where their phone is registered? And it's usually and sometimes, as some of these writers have said, there's absolutely no correlation. It doesn't. It's for places
Right.
they've never been. So yeah, I think people are on the right track here, where it's just shotgun approach.
Yeah.
It's just nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe the earlier parts were just coincidence, where it seemed that they were timing up perfectly. Or the other option is there was somebody who was timing them up perfectly and had this great scam, but as soon as news got out, people were like, "That's too much work. Let's just send out a bunch of spam text messages."
If you were that person who was doing the too much work version, we would love to talk to you.
Right.
You
You're
know
probably
what? There's a
pretty
much
angry.
easier way to scam people.
Right.
I honestly would love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation. Oh,
Yep.
thank you for all of our listeners who have given us so much great feedback. Please keep it coming. We love hearing from you. This is all great stuff. And if you're going to do a gold bar sting operation, please be safe.
Right.
We will be right back after this message from our show's sponsor.
And now, a few thoughts from our sponsors at ThreatLocker. The tactics used by cyber criminals are becoming more and more advanced every day. The shift from a default allow approach to a default deny is more critical than ever. This is where ThreatLocker comes in. Stay tuned for how ThreatLocker allow listing and ring fencing has your back.
Okay, so Joe, you are up first today for our story. Regale me, please.
I will regale you with something
Regale
from
me.
from Theo Berman at Newsweek. And here we go, regaling away. The headline of this story is FBI cracks pig butchering scam on dating sites, but it doesn't talk too much about the dating sites. What's interesting here is that the FBI has seized $8.2 million in cryptocurrency connected to what this article calls a complex international romance scam known as pig butchering. Now, we all are familiar with the term pig butchering, and if you're kind of new to the show, I will explain it to you. It is essentially the combination of a romance scam and a cryptocurrency scam. So you are on some dating site, you meet this person online, you probably will never meet them in person. They strike up a conversation, they do all the same romance scam stuff that everybody always does in a romance scam. They love bomb you, they plague you with compliments. They try to build this false rapport. And then they say, oh, by the way, I make my money being a crypto investor. And they send you a link to, they show you, hey, look how much money I've made in crypto. And it could be millions. And then they will encourage you to put some money into crypto. And when you do put money into crypto, you will see reports that say your money is growing really, really fast. Which then encourages you to put more money into it and more money into it. And there may even be a point at which you say, I'd like some of my money back, and they give it to you. That's usually a very small amount of money, but it's happened. Where, I'll put in $100 and they say, hey, your $100 grew to $200. Fine, give me the $200. Here's your $200. And you go, okay, well, let me try that again. I'll put that $200 back in. Here's another $1,000. And then it just keeps growing from there. So people have lost tons of money in this. In fact, I have another link that will go in the show notes about a Maryland woman who lost over $3 million to a pig butchering scam. And
oh my God. Sorry.
It's a lot. WJZ is the station covering this. It's one of the Baltimore news stations. And Mike Helgren has the story. We'll put a link in the show notes. They are disguising her voice in this so that you can't find her, because unfortunately, when you come forward as someone who's been scammed, people will pile on you. They shouldn't do this, but they do. They pile on you, call you stupid. I mean, there was a the poor victim of the Brad Pitt scam, I think in France, who the stories had to get taken down. So kudos to
honestly,
WJZ
every time.
here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I wish that more news outlets would start doing this, because even one of the first stories I did here on Hacking Humans, it was, I think, a piece in The Cut. And the woman, I think she said she got scammed out of like $50,000. I'm still seeing comments about that over a year later from people, denigrating her. And it's like, no, she did a really important service by telling us about what happened to her. And also victims get rescammed also, don't they, when they come forward?
They do, yeah. It's sad, but that is what happens. Anyway, this Maryland woman also came forward. She said, I feel terrible about this. I've lost so much money. I don't know if this is her life savings or not, but $3 million, I can't imagine that not being. And she is telling the story, which good for you too. So thank you to this woman. I don't know who you are, and thank you to WJZ for keeping her her anonymous. That's great news. Anyway, back to the Newsweek story. What happened here is it was the Cleveland field office of the FBI, and they were able to trace the funds to 3 cryptocurrency wallet addresses. So you can have multiple addresses, like a lot of addresses with one wallet. And it
sort of like feeds into the wallet, right? I mean,
it feeds into the wallet, right?
You're a big tree with its roots everywhere, is sort of how I imagine it. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm not exactly sure what the math is behind it, but you can have multiple addresses that feed into the same wallet, which is the same private keys. But these guys used just these 3 addresses, and that let the FBI develop a trace of where this money was going. Because even though these guys attempted to, launder the money with obfuscation techniques, using things like tumblers and switching from one blockchain to another. Like it says in here, they bought Ethereum and Tron, and they used multiple DeFi protocols, which is distributed financing.
Okay, thank you. Didn't know what that meant.
It's I'm not, it's like an exchange where there's nobody in charge. So, I've never done anything. I say that I do have some crypto on here. Some of it's in a personal wallet. Some of it's on an exchange. Most of it's on an exchange. DeFi, you can go up there. You can say, I'm going to exchange this for that. And maybe you get your money. I don't know. I've never tried it. But I would assume that you get some money from it. But anyway, these guys were able to, the FBI was able to trace this based on one Cleveland-based victim who was convinced to liquidate her entire retirement savings and transfer $650,000 into digital assets, and she thought it was going into an investment account. It isn't going into an investment account. It'll look like it is. There'll even be a fake web page, and they'll tell you, "Oh, you're doing great." But as soon as you say, "Hey, give me some of my money," that's when everything stops. And once you have the large amount of money, that's when they start. They will try to get you to put as much money in there as possible. And once you get to the point where you've started putting money in here, you could just think of it as gone. It is moved off the platform.
Basically.
It's gone. So once they had traced the money down, they had a good idea of where it was. They used civil forfeiture laws and filed a civil forfeiture complaint in February, talking about the scam and how they knew this was going on. Now I'm not a big fan of civil forfeiture laws because often they get abused. Like there are cases where people have been going to buy a car and they have $20,000 in cash, and law enforcement just seizes the cash and says, you can't have that much money unless you're going to do something illegal. We're going to have a civil forfeiture here, and good luck getting your money back. And
it does seem like something ripe for abuse, for sure.
It is. It absolutely is. But here, this is a good intended use case where the FBI has judiciously demonstrated that these are scam funds, or we're reasonably certain that these are scam funds. Please seize the cryptocurrency. And they've seized $8 billion. They said they're going to give it out to people who have been victims of these scams. One of the things they're saying is, of course, they don't know how many victims there are. There are many victims who have been who just will never be identified. Hopefully their losses are small.
Goodness. Wow. I have so many thoughts about every time we cover these stories. I have so many thoughts that go through my head that it's just sort of, what would convince somebody to take their retirement savings out in general and move them en masse somewhere else makes me wonder about, like when I go into retirement, like retirement funding websites. I'm trying not to use names here. Sometimes they don't look very credible, even though the institutions themselves are. And then I'm thinking you combine maybe a website that looks about as credible by a gut check as, an established financial institutions, plus the conversations I hear all the time going on between like grandparents and their grandchildren about, you should get into crypto. It's a great thing. Park your money there. And then just, you have not enough information plus things that look, I suppose, somewhat credible, or at least as credible as everything else. And then it's just a terrible melange of awful that makes it just so easy for people to get victimized like this. And that's to say nothing of also then the social engineering that's going on to make people do these kinds of things. It's just it's a combination of so many bad elements at once.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, it is. If everybody took my advice, they would not get hurt on this. And my advice is, remember, if you're going to invest in crypto, that's fine, but don't do it with money you can't afford to lose. It's like gambling, essentially. It's the same advice I give when you're gambling. And if you want to put a lot of money into crypto, that's fine. But you should never, under any circumstances, put all of your money into this. And it is, even if you, that's the only source of your money. If, let's say that I was smart enough to buy Bitcoin when I could have bought it for 25 cents or $4. At some point in time, I would have pulled some of that out.
Lucky enough.
Lucky enough, yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I had the opportunity. I really considered it. And I was like, I think I'll be happier with the $4. Turns out I was wrong. But
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I know people who did get in on that, but it's just like, but I also, in the cases of those people, they'd fallen for like 20 bad financial decision type scams beforehand. But in this case, it ended up paying off. So I'm kind of
right,
like,
and this is the one
yeah.
they talk about, right? They don't talk
Yeah,
about,
yeah, it is. Yep.
going into multi-level marketing or anything. Anyway, yeah, I would have, by now I would have liquidated some amount of that and put that into other more traditional investments. And, with the rate at which cryptocurrency or Bitcoin in particular, the prices have been growing, I probably would have done that multiple times. Yeah, even if, in other words, even if all my wealth came from the growth of the explosion of the value of cryptocurrency, I would have by now moved it to another investment. I would have diversified, and you should not have all of your money in one type of investment.
Yeah, well, this gets into financial literacy and what kind of risk can you take on, and also it's a whole other conversation about finances. And I think again it gets into that a lot of people, especially in the United States, are just not that financially literate. But it's also very complicated, especially if you're from another country where a lot of this stuff tends to be handled by like a government. And in this case, it's sort of like you got to figure it out, and it's not easy to figure out.
In my youth, I talk about this. My father is actually I found out he still maintains his education requirements so he can hold his CPA certification. I didn't know that about him.
Oh, bless him. Wow.
But yeah, I grew up in what you would consider to be a very financially literate household. My father was an accountant. My mother was a bookkeeper. We have a lot of accountants in the family. Not everybody comes from that kind of a background. So, I mean, this stuff all seems like second nature to me, but I understand that the reason that is the case is because of the household I grew up in.
Yeah, I come from the opposite. But it's my parents were very financially literate, but they were self-taught completely. And I'm and I know for my extended family, it was things were either handled by a pension. Really, it was a pension, or you bought property and basically you were a landlord, and that was it. That there were 401ks or anything with the stock market. None of that either existed, or nobody understands how to manage any of that. So anything that I learned from my parents, who thankfully learned about this stuff. But a lot of my family, I'm still having the conversations with them about, if you have the cash to buy property, that's great. But there's this whole thing called the stock market that you might also be interested in to grow your wealth. I don't know. So I just think of those use cases where it's easy to assume that people know this stuff, but it's really not clear at all. So yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to my story now. And
I was
honestly,
just about to ask, what do you got?
Oh, what do I got? Well, I really just have a quick story today. I wanted to mention what happened in the story, but then just pontificate a little bit on it, because honestly, it's sadly yet another Publishers Clearinghouse or PCH scam, and another whack-a-mole in these scams that just will not go away. In this case, in the end of March, 4 people were indicted on federal charges for apparently scamming millions of dollars out of several elderly folks around the United States. So 3 of the 4 people who have been indicted actually are based out of Jamaica, which I thought was an interesting bit of flavor there. But basically the scam occurred within the United States, and the 4 scammers would contact their elderly victims in many cases, saying, "Hey, you've won." This is standard PCH scam stuff, but hey, you've won the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. We're going to give you the cool, fun novelty check and show up at your house with the balloons like you've seen on TV. Multi-million dollars coming your way. All you need to do is pay just the upfront taxes and fees before we can give you this prize. And often the scammers would even give like forged documents describing the actual sweepstakes winnings that would be coming their way, and using official government seals to make it look very legitimate. And of course, the money was never going to be there, and the money from the victims was sent to a number of a whole mess of different bank accounts that the scammers would sort of draw from. So a PCH scam is nothing at all new. I think the thing that I wanted to really just speak to is I think on certain parts of the internet, I'm a very online person. PCH scams have this sort of notoriety of sort of comical, sort of like the Viagra pill spam.
Right.
Like, who is still falling for these? Like, how is this still successful? I'm not coming at it at that angle. I understand that angle exists. My main question is, for people under the age of, I don't know, 30, do people even know what PCH was? Like what Publishers Clearinghouse is? Because I'm old enough that I remember when they were on TV all the time. But to me,
Ed
it
McMahon
seems
was their spokesperson.
guy. Yeah.
Right.
So for people who don't know and have never seen this, back in the 90s, 80s and 90s, I want to say especially, it was this commercial that you would often see on TV where people with balloons, like in a party-like atmosphere, would sort of seemingly roll up to some random person's house with a huge novelty check for like a lot of money, basically saying you've won like this enormous amount of money. And often Ed McMahon, who was a big celebrity at the time, would be like there with his microphone interviewing some, average American person looking very happy and surprised that they just won $1 million or whatever. And it was one of those, it seems too good to be true, but apparently it was. I've never really understood how this thing worked. I guess it was just like a lottery. I'm not really sure.
I would get these things I'd open the Publishers Clearinghouse mailer because there'd be ads on TV going, look for the Publishers Clearinghouse mailer. Enter the sweepstakes.
Did you have to pay in? Yeah, you have to enter the sweepstakes. That's what it was. Oh, you should enter it. Huh.
You never have to pay in, or at least you shouldn't have to. In fact, you don't even have to buy a magazine, which was what I would do. I'm not going to buy any magazines. I'm just going to send this thing back, and then they'd send you another one, and you'd have to fill that out and send it back. And eventually, I lost interest in it. But
it was
the whole
big.
idea, they were trying to get you to buy magazine subscriptions because
that's what it was.
Back when I was a kid, magazines were delivered to your door via the postal service, not online.
They still can be.
I know. I actually still get National Geographic because it's got such beautiful photography in it.
Yeah.
And it's easier to just pick up a magazine and read it to the kids, right? It's
I love them for that reason, especially. Like I love to give my daughter a copy of Wired. Just kidding. That's for me, actually. Here, read The Atlantic. Would you like The Economist? She gets highlights.
Highlights for children.
Yeah,
that's
highlights is for children is great. But anyway, that's a whole thing. But I admittedly have not watched much network TV in a while, but I remember these commercials being a big part of the sort of cultural zeitgeist in the United States, especially in the 90s. But I want to say the last 20 years, they have faded away a lot. Like I don't think this is so much of a thing. So to me, it's almost the fact that this scam still persists is almost explicitly by design targeting the elderly. Because who else would remember when this was relevant and exciting? I feel kind of sad saying that, but
I agree with that 100%. So I mean, you're right. It's something that is it's self-selected to target the elderly to begin with, because I mean, if someone called you and said, "Hey, you won the Publishers Clearinghouse," you'd be like, "The what? The who?"
Yeah,
I don't understand.
I've never even heard of that. Right? Exactly. I mean, I have, but I can imagine people under certain ages, they only know about it in the same breath as like a Viagra pill scam. Like, why would you ever fall for this? But people, for people who remember when this was a big part of the deal, people would joke about, well, maybe one day Ed McMahon will show up at your house with balloons, and it was a big deal. Yeah, so it was just yet another PCH scam. Sadly, a lot of people lost money. I'm glad to see some more folks getting caught for doing this. Interestingly enough, the people who actually allegedly have done this version of the scam are actually all around the 30. Late 20s and early 30s. So do they even remember when it was culturally relevant, I guess, is my thing. But
probably not.
Probably not. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Anyway, so yet another PCH scam. So be careful out there. And we will be right back after this message from our show sponsor.
So let's return to our sponsor, ThreatLocker. ThreatLocker is a zero-trust endpoint protection platform that strengthens your infrastructure from the ground up. Where traditional cybersecurity tools require you to create a list of things you don't want to run, ThreatLocker enables you to easily curate an allow list of everything you need in your environment and network, and block everything else by default. With ThreatLocker allow listing and ring fencing, you gain a more secure approach to blocking exploits of known and unknown vulnerabilities. ThreatLocker provides zero-trust control at the kernel level that enables you to allow everything you need and block everything else, including ransomware. The ThreatLocker Zero Trust Endpoint Protection Platform deploys in a learning mode that analyzes the operations of your company using machine learning to assist you in developing your allow list for approved applications, what they can do on the endpoint, what can interact with your data, and even east and west network traffic. We thank ThreatLocker for sponsoring our show.
And we are back. And now it is time for Catch of the Day. Joe?
Our catch of the day comes from r/scams and the Reddit. This is on Reddit, r/scams. And the user, I love this user's username, cultwitch_13. She sounds nice.
Why are we assuming it's a she? Just kidding.
That's a good question. Because it doesn't say cult warlock. I don't know. Does that even make sense anymore? Is that actually? I don't.
Cult wizard, cult warlock. Well, it depends. Are you a sorcerer or are you a? No, just kidding. We're getting into D&D rules now. Yeah.
She posted this message that she got. She received a text message along with three other people received this text message
randomly
with her. Right, randomly.
Yeah.
You want to read this?
Sure thing. Hello, good day. This is Elon Musk Tesla. Did you got any messages from my manager yet? We are happy to inform you that your name have been randomly selected as a new beneficiary with a sum of $500,000 to help people pay off debts such as mortgages, medical bills, and unpaid bills, as well as to support the disabled. Kindly respond back with accept to +1 some phone number. To proceed immediately, thank you. Do not call, only text. Congratulations to you once again.
So Elon's middle name is not Musk. That's his last name. His name
is Elon Tesla.
Right.
When his mother's really mad, though, she goes, Elon Musk Tesla.
Right. He is actually the great-great-grandson of Nikolai. No, he's not.
No, he's not.
His car company after that. I don't think Nikolai Tesla had any kids.
No,
anyway,
he did not.
Yeah,
he loved pigeons.
Like Mike Tyson.
Yes, Tesla was a fascinating person. I stayed in the hotel room where he lived and died in New York.
Really?
Yeah. So he lived in a hotel in New York that's very close to Penn Station, and there's like a plaque in the lobby saying like he lived here. But I apparently got like the room where he actually lived and.
Yikes!
Years ago. Yeah, well, he was a bit of a personal hero to my father, so I knew a lot about Tesla growing up.
Okay.
Anyway.
So here's why this actually might work. Is
do not call, only text.
Right. I was on Newsweek today, and there is I'm reading that pig butchering FBI story, and at the bottom there's a link to another article that says Elon Musk says he's going to go write $1 million checks to people who vote in the Supreme Court vote election in Wisconsin, and he says he's only going to give. It doesn't matter what he's going to do. It's a stunt. Who cares? It's things that when he does things like that can pair up nicely with scams like this. Elon Musk is going to Wisconsin to give away two $1 million checks. It's not so hard to believe that I am the lucky recipient of half that amount from such a wacky billionaire. So
yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a drop in the bucket for him. Plus, he's doing the PCH scams with the giant novelty checks, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, we all see this as obviously a scam. If you contact these people, you just get led into an advance fee scam where you have to start paying fees in advance. We got your $500,000 right here, but you have to pay a wiring fee of $100. Okay, now you have to pay some taxes of another taxing fee, and it just fees until you either realize it's a scam or run out of money. One of the two things is going to happen. So it's really great to realize this is a scam when you've lost $0. That's the objective. And that's why we have this show.
Indeed. Yep. Thank you for that, Joe.
And of course, we want to thank this week's sponsor, ThreatLocker. Go to threatlocker.com/HH and check out their Zero Trust Endpoint Protection platform. That's the words threat and locker with no space.com/HH, where you can request a demo and neutralize the threat of malware running on your devices.
And that is Hacking Humans, brought to you by N2K Cyberwire. We would love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures that we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. If you like the show, please share a rating and review in your podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to hackinghumans@n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K Cyberwire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K makes it easy for companies to optimize your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your teams while making your teams smarter. Learn how at n2k.com. This episode is produced by Liz Stokes. Our executive producer is Jennifer Eiben. We're mixed by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester. Peter Kilby is our publisher. And I'm Maria Varmazis.
And I'm Joe Kerrigan.
Thank you for listening.